Boimler calls Voyager Voy. Lieutenant Ta'ana is Itchy, and Lieutenant Shax is Bax. Transporter pattern buffer thing, restored Katra, or maybe a mirror universe switcheroo, or the Borg rebuilt him, or a future son from an alternate timeline, or maybe got Genesis device, or time ribboned, or he was trapped in the Nexus. Well, Nexus, time ribbon, same thing. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Wow, that was superiorly long.
I know, I need to take a break already.
I was like, wow, is he gonna make it? Is this a self-sealing stem bolt moment? But
I need a nap. And first try, too. I just went with it. Yeah. Joining us today is Eve England, all the way out in Wales. So I got the whole intro right, but I got the name wrong. Sorry, Eve.
No worries. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. We're doing a review of Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 3. We'll always have Tom Paris, and Eve is appropriately dressed for Tom Paris. Perfect.
Oh.
Everybody listening, she's wearing a Captain Proton shirt. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing good. You guys got to inform me about Tom Paris a little bit. I'm not really knowledgeable about the Tom Paris lore, so I understand that he's somebody special in the history of it.
Yeah.
But you know how Lower Decks does, they use a lot of references, and if you're not up on the Trek lore, then it can leave somebody like me who's a novice kind of looking
a lot of references. There were like 50 or 60 in the previous episode. In this one, all the things I said were references to previous episodes. Well, the ribbon was from Star Trek Generations, which was a movie. But what I love the most are the animated series references. It just makes me want to watch the animated series again, because it's like this hidden little gem. Eve, have you ever seen the animated series?
No, I haven't. So I'm going to have to. No, because that's why I like this episode, because it was more of the newest, sort of from Deep Space Nine onwards, which I've seen rather than TOS and Next Generation, etc. So, yeah.
Well, I've seen it once.
Yeah, I haven't seen the animated series, so I'm going to have to raise my hand on that too.
Surprising. I just watched it like a couple years ago for the first time. But Cirroc, to answer your question, Tom Paris, he was one of the series regulars on Star Trek Voyager. His best friend was Harry Kim, played by Garrett Wang, our good buddy. And they did a Captain Proton thing in the holodeck, kind of like what Sid and Chief O'Brien would do in the holo suites when they would go and battle aliens or battle, British battles. What was the British? James Bond
spies and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Battle of Britain, right? So they would do Captain Proton, which was kind of like an old school futuristic series they made up. So Tom Paris was a pilot. He was the ship's pilot, and he always drew Janeway's ire because he was based off of a character from the Next Generation episode called Nicholas Locarno, who was disgraced for doing a bad trick with the Nova Squadron that got somebody killed. Anyway, moving on. So he was always, but he was also kind of like the cool guy on the ship. He's like, hey, I'm just Tom Paris. I make mistakes, whatever. Is that about right?
Okay, so he was the Fonz of Voyager.
Yeah, the Fonz of Voyager.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it was interesting. He started off, he was in jail in New Zealand, and Janeway went to get him right at the very start. So I think that's where there's a lot of what makes me laugh anyway, that becomes a lieutenant and he's this respected person on the ship, even though he was a criminal. But yeah, poor Harry Kim just never gets promoted.
Yeah,
it's quite an insult to Harry.
Yeah, Tom he was like first he was like ensign, then he was acting lieutenant, then he was dropped back down to ensign, then back up to lieutenant. I think they originally said, if I remember correctly, the writers originally said that their plan was for Tom Paris to have a thing with Janeway. In fact, if I remember correctly, that was kind of like their long-term plan for him. Obviously, that didn't even come close to material. Well, I guess it did kind of materialize in the legendary Salamander episode, which was mentioned on this episode by Mariner, when he's going to come back, and she's like, "Oh, what's are you still a salamander?" Do you remember what she said?
She said, "Is he still a salamander?" And then Boimler defends him. Yeah, that was quite funny. Because I think we've seen a salamander a few episodes in another episode as well, haven't we? I think. Yeah.
We like to jokingly call them lizard babies, but since they're crawling out of the water, clearly they're not reptiles. Most likely, they're more likely to be amphibians. So salamander's probably closer. Nerd alert.
Okay, so we never mentioned his name, but it's Robert Duncan McNeil.
Yeah,
is the guy we're talking about, the real actor.
Yeah, Robbie McNeil. He's our buddy and comes on our show, and he's a great director.
And he played in the he actually played his voice in this, so he was himself in this episode. Mm-hmm. Okay, just doing a little background, making sure I keep up to speed.
Yeah, and the first thing similar to that I would do is whenever there's somebody that's reprising their role on Lower Decks now, like Riker did, and now Tom Paris, I listen to their voice and try to remember how close it is to what their voice was 20 years ago. Because remember, 20 years has passed. So his voice is going to sound a little bit different. What do you think, Eve? Did he nail it?
Yeah, I think so. Well, it was slightly different, but having currently watching some of the episodes, I think that the tone is slightly different. But yeah, it was obviously him, which I thought they did really well. And the way that he spoke and some of the Tom Parisisms when he first came onto the bridge, etc., that they really did that quite well, I thought. Yeah. Oh my God. He did really good.
I think my favorite part was when he sees Boimler and he yells, "Kazon!" and he attacks him. Kazon Cirroc was like a first season bad guy alien. That was actually the alien that Aaron Eisenberg played when he was in that one episode of Voyager.
Isn't that the name of the card shop, Kazon Cards?
Exactly, and that's what he named it after. Shout out to John Tuffarella.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I recognized Kazon, but I didn't recognize all of these past references of why he would expect all of these things. The salamander and all of those references went over my head, but no, I will say that I did not, because I don't really know Tom Paris's voice that well. I can't really compare it to his actual voice from 20 years ago. But when I listened to Jonathan Frakes do his role on this show, it's pretty exciting to hear his voice. He has the signature sound to his voice that I think we all do in some way, but his is exceptional and it's very recognizable.
I did like the fact that he played himself in two different ways. So he was plate Tom Paris and also real Tom Paris, and how they gave him the different uniforms as well. Yeah, I thought it was just quite interesting how they used Tom for all of that sort of storytelling. He wasn't really in it that much, I suppose, was he? But it's just, he was the vehicle for Boimler's inner anxiety. And
was he in a different uniform? Issues. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he was. He was in the
cool.
He's in the sort of the newer, the grey, the Deep Space Nine outfits at the end when he comes in as himself. And obviously on the plate he's got the old Voyager outfit on.
Wow, that didn't even register. That's really cool. I love it. Now, also,
I think it's funny that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please. I was going to change the subject.
Well, I was going to change the subject, but just before we do, I wanted to say that I think it's funny how Lower Decks actually makes a play to the plates, the collector plates that have been. I've signed many plates over my lifetime.
Yes,
and there's something
you did just last week.
With. Yeah, and it's something I'm very familiar with. So I think it's hilarious that you guys that are doing Lower Decks take these kinds of references and, put them in the show, so they're actually not only making fun of, in some ways, of their own Star Trek lore and the history and the things that we, talk about. They're making jokes about the actual history that happened in these episodes, the canon, but they're actually using as well these certain merchandising things. We saw the Chateau Picard in the collector's episode before this. And so they're using things that we actually see at these conventions as well. So they're actually tying in together an aspect of Star Trek that has never been tied in on the shows, which is the merchandising and the different things that we see.
Oh my God, they are merchandising so hard. Eve, I know you're going to be first in line to get a Kayshawn stuffed animal doll, right?
Just going to the plate, what's amazing is now they've made a plate of that plate. So it's kind of gone full circle. And I have to confess, I thought it was so funny. I have actually pre-ordered one. And I will try to get it signed by Robert.
You see what I mean?
So
you
funny.
see what I mean? They've actually created a new thing with the plate of the animated plate. That is hilarious.
It's a genius. It's genius money-making marketing, isn't it?
But they better have a stuffed Kayshawn. There's no way people are not going to get that Tamarian. There's such dead air right there.
That's because there was supposed to be a wow inserted in there.
But there was nothing left. They just stopped, and you guys were waiting for more. I was like, no,
I was waiting for Aaron. I was waiting for Aaron to just give you the wow, but I guess she's not here. I got to do it for myself. Wow.
Well, I did show the picture of him as a Kazon with Robert Beltran as Chakotay in that one. That must have been first season or possibly second season. Eve, do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was really early on. I can't. It was definitely
first or second. Yeah. Anyway, so I was also going to say that one big thing that I'm sure people are going to love are the Easter eggs that we already kind of had a hint about from the trailer that we saw a couple months ago, which was when they arrive at, what's the place called? Quaylar or something like that.
Quaylar 2.
Quaylar 2, yeah. At the establishing shot, we saw Quarks, and we also saw Vic Fontaine performing. I don't know if you caught those, Cirroc, but in the established, there was Quark's bar, kind of like when they went in Picard. Remember, they arrived on the planet, and we saw Quark's bar, and he went to Quark's bar, and they battled it out and whatever. But this one had that, plus showing that Vic Fontaine was going to be performing, some night or whatever like that. Kind of like it's like the Galaxy's Vegas.
No, I actually got excited about Quark's bar, and then when they did it, I had to draw the logo of it. I thought
hang on, let me pull it up. Let me spotlight you here. Everybody, check it out. Cirroc doodles. Nice.
There's my Quark's bar doodle. And they made Quark look really ugly for some reason. And I was thinking...
Yeah, he's usually beautiful.
Yeah, well, they could have done a better job, but he looked a little rough and aggressive in his logo. I think he would have been softened up more cartoony,
You're right. He did look like, I'm going to get your goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Platinum, sorry.
I was like, why is he so on edge and so kind of, evil looking? They also had the Zebulon sisters as one of the signs. And did you notice that it was also the Zebulon sisters? And I wondered if that had like any kind of significance.
I feel like it did. Eve, do you know?
I did, because I actually did look that up because I knew I'd seen it somewhere, and it's the band that Boimler and Mariner went to, and they had those choo-choo dance t-shirts on.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
wow.
I didn't know it straight away, but I looked it up. Yeah.
Okay, so I knew I saw it somewhere. But I was like, where? I was like, who is the Zebulon sisters? I know there's some sisters in DS9, but I don't think they were the Zebulon sisters.
No. Duras.
The Duras sisters, right? Yeah. So I just noticed that. I was like, who are the Zebulon sisters? And I got to get stock in some of their business because they're blowing up.
They're going places.
They're across the street from Quarks.
Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed at the most recent Star Trek convention, Cirroc, but people are starting to wear those choo-choo t-shirts. I don't know if you saw those, but I saw a few. Those are selling like hotcakes somehow. Sorry, Eve, that's I guess the translation would be selling like crumpets. So.
Say hotcakes.
Okay. All right. You never know.
Yeah, like she's on a base in some moon on Jupiter.
Yeah. So
she's literally the best poster on Instagram. She makes the best stuff in the world. Got to give you a shout out for that because we love your post, Eve. You're amazing, and the thought that you put into all of your stuff and the design, the background, just the details. You're fantastic. Got to give you that praise in person when I see you every time because it's just that amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And since we're on that note, let's can you give us your Twitter and Instagram handle so people can follow you and check out all of your awesome gingerbread art?
Goodness, I got to try to remember now. I think my Twitter is Evie England at just that, and then I think my Instagram is it Evatronic or Evatronic? You might have to Google it.
I think it's Tronic. Sure. Evatronic.
Evatronic.
You don't know your own handles?
Well, you don't ever write it, do you? You never write your own Twitter.
Yeah, maybe. So you guys just start, typing stuff in. Maybe she'll come up. Maybe she won't. Try Evie. Try Tronic. Try. You'll find her.
You guys link to each other. So when you find one, you'll find the other one. So.
Yeah.
There it is.
Great stuff.
No, you're awesome. You do fantastic work. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I want to say thank you for the birthday card that you sent me. Very special. And
oh, you're welcome.
I thought it was amazing that you found a Columbo birthday card. And it was like just one more thing, Cirroc.
Yeah, it's so perfect.
I have to thank Ryan for the inspiration for that. But yeah, no, I was surprised myself that I managed to find one, to be honest, because I thought that's very obscure.
Well, you know how you do it, Eve, is that you planned ahead. You were asking like a month or two well in advance.
That's
so all the work that you put into finding it probably took a while, and it took a while to ship it over and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, oh man, Cirroc, if you had it on hand, I'd love to see it. But that's what he's saying. He's like, oh, and one more thing, Cirroc, right?
Yeah, no, I'm going to show it next time.
Brilliant.
It was like one of the best cards I've ever seen, and I couldn't even believe it. Very, very thoughtful of you, and very sweet person. So I wanted to say thank you for that as well.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Eve England, the most thoughtful person in any galaxy.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
sweet.
Speaking of thoughtful people, our friend Boimlerplate, he was at one point humming the Voyager theme song. I don't know if you caught that. I mean, Cirroc may not have recognized it, but he was humming, and Eve, you probably caught it. And I also want to say that thank goodness that they can make Voy canon, because that's how I always type it out, just VOY. And, working on the Voyager documentary, we always just called it Void Doc. We still do, even though it has a name to the journey. But I was very happy that they were calling it Voy. And then Mariner said something about Voy, and she's like, wow, you're right. It does save a lot of time. So from now on, it's canon, guys. We're allowed to call it Voy, right?
Yeah, no, I thought that was really funny when I was thinking of the Voyager documentary. When he said that, I was like, that's brilliant. So on point.
Boy, okay. I'm all right with that. It's better than Voyeur, because that was my shortened nickname, and I don't think it works. I thought Mariner had a great little, she had a little DS9 reference in this episode as well. She talked about being stationed on DS9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, we got a lot of NAMs there, right, Cirroc? Yeah. They mentioned Janeway and Harry Kim, and they mentioned, well, they didn't necessarily mention, but they showed Quark and Vic Fontaine, and then she mentioned Odo and Chakotay.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you were saying when she mentioned
Worf. And Worf is mentioned in this too.
Oh, I missed Worf. What did they say?
She was saying that she had broken Worf's necklace and she'd fixed it before he even noticed it had gone. And what I thought was amazing is she was talking, you know when she does the ramming speed at the end with the shuttle, and that's obviously what Worf does in, is it First Contact?
First Contact,
maybe Mariner was on there with him.
It's entirely possible.
I don't know, but I thought
we never saw the lower decks in the episodes.
Right.
So maybe she was on the lower deck.
I just thought that would just be really cool to sort of how they just brought them all together.
Where she's like, wow, that's so cool. One of these days, I'm going to do that. And it went Blink. That was a nice, funny touch. I like that for sure.
Funny.
Yeah. There were some lines in this that were pretty funny though. The whole Shaq storyline,
all of it, yeah.
With the whole thing was kind of, it had me rolling. Especially when the guy Rutherford was about to ask him about how he came back from the dead, but the other guy asked in front of him. So he just played the background and waited for the response. And the way that guy got chewed out, and it was a funny moment for me. And after that guy got chewed out, as he's walking away, he says to himself, he was dead. Like that's a normal question to ask if you've seen somebody come back from the dead. So I thought that was another funny moment in this episode. Look, this show is killing it as far as the Star Trek comedy is concerned, because it really rolls by quickly. The ideas are so clever. They have so many drops and clues and, little Easter eggs inside of it that you can just be entertained for that 24 minutes that it's on. And there's just enough stuff to keep you going. And even if you don't know any of the references like I do, you still are entertained just by those little jokes and those funny moments and those awkward moments and the friendship that the crew kind of has for each other. So, or dysfunctional friendship, I should say. But yeah, I like this show a lot.
Definitely a good time. And as we mentioned before, my notes for this 20-minute show are longer than the 40-minute shows, the 40-minute episodes, because they cram so much stuff. And it takes me like an hour to watch the episode because I'm constantly pausing and going back and seeing what I missed and taking more notes. They put in 45 minutes of stuff into 20 minutes and consistently. I mean, maybe even an hour worth of stuff. Real quick, I wanted to say the line that Billups said to the poor sucker that asked Shax about how he died. He said, "Lieutenant Junior Grade Cody, that is out of line. Report to your supervisor for immediate reassignment." And I'm thinking like, this poor sucker, man. What the hell happened to him?
He was dead. I mean,
yeah.
He's like, what the hell?
Because it's funny, isn't it? Because they keep killing people, don't they? And main characters come back. And I suppose it's interesting because normally you're seeing it from the perspective of those people, the main guys, whereas so you can imagine that all of the lower deckers and everyone else have no idea what's going on, so you can just imagine them having these questions and having no clue and thinking, oh my god, this guy's back, I thought he was dead. So it's quite funny seeing that from the other side. It's hilarious.
I just remembered. No, go ahead, Cirroc, because I'm
and Mariner, to add to your point, Eve, Mariner says bridge officers are always coming back, right? She's like, I've seen this before, it's not a big deal to her. But to everybody else, they're like, wait a minute, the guy was dead. Like, he died trying to save me. Like, I'm the guy that saw him die. So that was really funny. And then when he breaks the whole story down on why he, what he saw and what he's, we're really protecting you from the deep, dark stories and this and that. And when he starts getting into, Black Mountain or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was Black Mountain.
I was like, oh, this guy's hilarious. This episode's funny. They just play on this all of the jokes. They know how to play off of them. All of the things that we wonder about when we watch Star Trek, the things that we kind of left unsaid or jokes that are kind of like wouldn't it be awkward if this were to happen? They play on all of those things, and I think they're doing a fantastic job thus far. It's good. The show will be around for a long time.
I'm glad Shax is back too, because I really like that character. And when we saw that he was back, my first thought was, is he really back, or is it just like a dream sequence? Is it like a one episode thing? It seems like he's just back and that's it. Like Boimler was gone, Shax was gone, and now they're back and the whole gang is reunited. And then Kayshawn is just, I thought they were just going to undoll him and make him back into a person. And he's not. So I guess they did a double switcheroo on us where Kayshawn is gone and Shax is back, and that's it. Oh, I got to grab something
Yeah.
because I did see another Next Generation reference, and I need a prop for this one.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh dear.
So we were talking about when Shax and Rutherford were going at it, right? They were having that conversation. And the funny thing is when Shaq said to Rutherford, he's like, "Whoa, baby bear, what's the matter?" When he called him baby bear, I was like, out of nowhere. It's like a weird throw in.
Well, they called him Baby Bear in one of the first episodes in the first season, if I remember correctly, which was just like when Rutherford was switching around to different departments. And I believe they called him Baby Bear, which was hilarious then. And it was hilarious now because it just kind of came out of nowhere. We totally forgot about it. He's like, "Oh, Baby Bear." I don't remember, maybe second episode or something.
Yeah. We also got the Mistress of the Winter Constellations reference, which is like, she's like, "Why don't you use that name?" I just love the jokes with Tendi. We didn't even get into Tendi's storyline, but you know, they kind of expanded on her and she got some growth. You know, she's like, "How come you don't know me?" And as they're saying that they don't know each other, they're actually getting to know each other. So another good way to point out your own flaws. They said they're always pairing us. They're always pairing Rutherford and me and you and Boimler, and they never mix us around. That's like the writers talking out loud to themselves and putting it in the episode. And I like that idea as well. It's another just clever way to storytell, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And it was nice to see the two female characters together for that first time, because like I said, I found that this one was, even though there were so many Easter eggs in there, it was actually quite story driven as well. We had the 3 separate storylines going through with all the friends learning things about themselves, and I thought it's the first one I remember that is much more based on all of the characters and learning more about them. So I think that'll really set up the next few episodes, and we'll start to see them interacting in different ways, I think, which will be quite fun. Rather than, like I said, the typical pairings that we had previously.
With the two ladies together, they did keep saying like girls trip and girls this, but the funny one that cracked me up was girls peek. Just do a girls peek when they wanted to open up the box, just a little girls peek. So that was very funny to me. I mean, there were just
cheaters don't deserve Nausicaan Latinum. That was another line that had me laughing out loud.
So that was the Next Generation reference from this episode right here.
Okay.
Which is Picard as Lieutenant Junior Grade Picard in the episode Tapestry, one of my favorite episodes. I feel like it was 7th season. And that's definitely a fun one. That's when Picard goes back in time and he gets stabbed in the heart by Nausicaan over a game of Domjot. And there was the Tellarite that owned the table that made a nice show. He's like, "Hey, I just rejotted this table." Because apparently whatever the hell that means. But that was a really fun reference for those of us that like that episode, like myself. Shout out to Casey Shafsky, who found this guy and had it mailed to me because I kept mentioning this guy in our episode. So he's like, "Fine, let me just send you this thing and shut you up." But
you weren't supposed to open it out of the package, Ryan. You're supposed to keep it in the package.
I think it was already open when it was mailed to me. It's a prop anyway.
I tell you what, there was another moment that I thought was funny. Tendi was saying, "I'm not that kind of Orion," right? And she kept saying that. And then she said another time, she said, she's going to think that we're pirates and thieves, right? And
yes.
5 seconds later, she's like, "My cousin is a thief who lives in a pirate," or something like that, lives with pirates. So I thought that was another like self-deprecating joke that was so funny, because here she is so protective of her identity and don't disrespect me. But then she's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, my cousin is exactly what the stereotype is." So
they hit a lot of things there. With that, I thought that was very clever and funny because of the irony of it. Also that they were saying, "Oh, she's wearing fake green or something like that.
False green.
False green, which was really kind of nudging, the blackface thing. And she was, well, Mariner was saying, like, she's like, I don't know, this just doesn't feel right. Just don't take any pictures. Oh man, there was a lot.
She was
there.
Debbie was bossing around. She turned into a real dominatrix all of a sudden when she wanted to. She was just like getting her way. Divana is her first name, I guess.
Yeah.
Divana. And I thought that was the Odo joke, back to the Odo joke, saying, I just thought you were a one-worder like Odo or something.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a funny little, just miniature reference there as well.
I wanted to ask you, Cirroc, speaking of Divana Tendi and Ensign Mariner, when they changed outfits and they were in this cool Orion garb, obviously I thought of you because you're always good at catching the wardrobe and such. I want to ask you, what did you think of that wardrobe? Or did you even notice it? Did you think it looked cool or what? Did you draw it?
Yeah, I don't pay attention to animated wardrobe as much as I do real wardrobe. Because I know that, it was just drawn and is not really something tangible. But
right.
I thought they were like looking more like the Orion kind of slave girl kind of look that I'm used to seeing in like old photos. So that kind of made it look normal to me. I didn't think anything of that. As far as drawing though, I did draw the Cation libido post. And I thought that was funny. I thought the Cation libido post was hilarious. So that's my sketch of it.
Doing the kissy face.
And by the way, that is one of those nomenclatures, right? A Cation libido post. Right?
Yeah.
Right. I thought there was another one too, but
there was another one, and I don't know if I wrote it down though.
Yeah, there was another one in this episode where they were doing the nomenclature, just calling something, by another name, but yeah, it was is it Katana? Is the Catwoman character?
Ta'ana.
I say Katana. Yeah, Ta'ana is that whole thing where she's like, I just wanted the box. That was hilarious too at the end. Just them going through all of that.
Yeah. Now, Eve, as a cat owner yourself, have you noticed that cats love getting into boxes and then their eyes get all super dilated like hers did?
I know, it's really strange. Yeah, no, love boxes. And I loved it when she's checking in on them and she goes, the way she says, where the hell are you? And she goes, meow. She does a cat sound, meow, where the hell are you? I thought that was just so funny. And all the cat noises she's making. I think we need to see more of her. I don't think we've seen enough of her yet.
Yeah, I think they can explore her character a lot more. Because there's a kind of a mystery behind her. We don't really know much about her. No. So I think it would be good to have like some backstory on her and something that kind of tells us how she ended up there, or something that reveals who she is and what she's made of in some kind of different way.
We also got a little mention of, because they said that they have to go through whatever her thing's called. I don't remember what the Cation thing is called, but they said it was just like, they do it every year, and it's just like Ponfar for Vulcans, which is every 7 years, which was obviously a reference to the original series when Spock goes through Ponfar, right? And also Ensign Vorik does as well in Voyager, who was played by our good friend, Mr. Alexander Enberg. I don't know, there may be other Ponfar references that I don't remember, but those are definitely the two I remember. Do you remember, Eve, what they called the Cation thing?
No, I don't actually.
What they call the what?
They're her, like her going in heat for that in that year. Basically, it should just be called being in heat, because that's what it was. It was a cat in heat.
Yeah.
All right. It's cat scratch fever. She had something going on. I think those were the big references. They also every one of those things that they mentioned Shax could have gone through to be revived. Every one of those was a reference to an episode or a movie, like the Nexus and what was the thing? Time strip. I always forget what they call it. Time ribbon. Right. So the Nexus and the Time ribbon, like I said, was from Generations. There was the Borg being rebuilt. Oh, by the way, the Borg rebuilding him, shout out to our good buddy, Mr. Don Crandall, who always seems to have cool little extra things to mention. He said the Borg tech, when 7 of 9 uses the Borg tech to bring Neelix back from after dying in Voyager. So that's kind of the known one, but one I didn't even think of. He said it could be a nod to the non-canon William Shatner novel, The Return, where the Borg resurrect Kirk from the dead after the Generation movie, now as the Borg's secret weapon against Picard. So that's really interesting because they've done non-canon references in the past, and this might be one of them because books are not considered canon. But that was really a good one that I hadn't even thought of. Obviously, we know about the Orion pheromones because that was in the Enterprise episode Bound, which Don Crandall also mentions. But that's why when Tendi first shows up and the guy's like, "What are you doing? You could get killed," and she says something, he just starts going to her feet. The guys are super subservient to the women because of their pheromones. And one other thing that he mentioned was the notion that you'll go mad if you learn what may be, what the death might be poking fun of Picard season 1. Now that's kind of a stretch, but that was when the Kawat Malat ladies, right, when they're staring at the thing and they learn whatever's going to happen and they all go crazy and shoot themselves or whatever in Picard season 1. So a lot of deep cuts from Don Crandall.
Kawat Malat. Yeah, I have nothing for that. The only thing I have is because that's all deep. Those are deep cuts right there.
Correction. I think they were the Jat Vash. I get those two mixed up. I think they were the Jat Vash. The Kawat Malat were like the good guy, the good women nuns or something. Anyway.
Okay. Because I've not heard that before. So yeah, the fact that they made this reference when Boimler's talked about his autograph plate collection, and he was like, "Look, I have them all the way from Janeway, and he says all the way down to Kim." And when he said that, I was like, "Oh, that's such a that's a low blow, all the way down to Kim."
Well, he was the ensign.
Yeah, I guess so. He still can't get any respect, even in the animated version.
Oh, that was funny.
Eve, who's your favorite character on Star Trek Voyager?
I don't know. I'm not sure, actually. Gosh, I don't know. I do like the Doctor. Yeah, but Tom Paris is pretty cool. I prefer Tom Paris when he's as Captain Proton. I really like those episodes.
Really?
Just because they're just a bit. I just think it's quite clever how they make them all black and white as well. There's just something about them that there's just something. It's just visually a bit more interesting. So yeah, no, the Doctor I think is my favorite. I just think he's absolutely hilarious.
Captain Proton. Me, my favorite. That's tough. Initially, it was Chakotay. Interesting character. I was excited to see a Native American on the show when I first watched it. But then, like so many others, it kind of started to morph into the Doctor, played by Robert Picardo, because he's just so GD charming. And I think that was one of those situations where they certainly didn't mean for him to be one of the main characters or central characters, But as time progressed, he was just so charming and fun to watch and interesting that the writers kind of adjusted and his character grew. Because really, honestly, initially he was just supposed to be a medical holographic program, so there's not much to work with there, but he just, like with any great actor, if you play your role really well, like Mr. Jeffrey Combs, we all know they're going to figure out a way to keep bringing you back in and involving your character more.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, because I initially obviously loved Janeway, and I think she's an absolutely fantastic character, but I don't think they utilized her as much as they could have, or the storylines weren't quite probably where I would have liked her to have gone. And then 7 of 9 kind of took over from some of the more interesting episodes later on. And like you said, the Doctor just wrote himself stories, didn't he? I mean, he was just, he was just so, they got some really interesting storylines for him and some really interesting ideas. So, but yeah, definitely he evolved, got more interesting over the seasons. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you real quick, Eve, again about Captain Proton. There are murmurs of Captain Proton, some kind of series possibly happening or something. People are definitely pushing for it. If there were a Captain Proton series, Eve, would you watch it? Probably not, right? You don't seem like a huge fan.
Nah, it's probably not really my cup of tea. I definitely will watch that for you. Yeah. It'd be amazing. What I'd love for them to do is to take sort of a concept like that and to see what they do with it, because there's so many different things they could do with that. So I think that would be a really exciting project, and I know that Robert Duncan McNeill is all over that. So with his skills and filmmaking generally, I think that could be something special if they actually got that off the ground. So fingers crossed.
Oh, one more thing before we move off from Voyager. Also, Boimler, when they mentioned Paris for the first time, he says, the creator of Fairhaven, which was another holodeck program that Tom Paris created, which was like a little town that they would go visit in. That was a really cool little deep cut there.
Anne-Marie liked that episode, I think.
Yeah, oh, right. Anne-Marie Segal.
Yeah.
Our associate producer loves Fairhaven.
The creator
I'm not sure I've seen that one, but I did skip some of the Voyager episodes, I have to confess.
You admit it right here on the 7th rule. That's it.
I'll get some
Everybody
hate mail.
knows. You'll get some hate mail.
I did like that they mentioned some Enterprise references though this time. I quite enjoyed that, having obviously recently watched that. So there were 2. Yeah, they were. It was where they had all of Shaq's ghosts at the end. So there's one of them dressed in an Enterprise jumpsuit, which I presume was some sort of reference to Trip dying or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
And then what was really funny, and I heard I had to rewind it a couple of times because I wasn't sure if I'd missed it. I'd heard something mentioned about T'Pol's hair, and I was like, "What was?" So I had to rewind it, and one of them says, "What was the deal with T'Pol's hair?"
I missed that.
It's hilarious. Because T'Pol had that ridiculous hairstyle in the first, well, for most of it really, but the first season was particularly bad. And I thought that was just that was the biggest laugh out loud moment for me when I actually went back and thought, oh my god, they actually did just say that. It was hilarious.
Wow. I thought there was one other visual reference, and I could be wrong, but it was when Boimler was at the beginning when he's trying to order food and the computer doesn't recognize his voice, which was a hilarious gag that ran through the whole thing where the computer doesn't recognize him yet because I guess his passcodes hadn't gone through or whatever. That was very funny, I thought. But he says, just give me anything I can eat. And it looks like the computer, the replicator gave him a bonsai tree, which, I don't know if it's a major reference, but it reminds us of Keiko O'Brien because she would always do bonsai trees and plants and things like that. So that was a fun little thing, and it's probably very tasty.
If you're desperate, you could probably. I did think that was really funny because it's almost, obviously there's nothing worse than when you get locked out of your IT system, but you can just imagine you're on a ship, you can't eat, you can't open any doors. I just thought that the extra frustration of how you hate your computer sometimes shown in how Boimler just could not get anywhere. And it's like, a nightmare sequence where he had to go through all the refuse tubes and just couldn't just get there. The direct route was just hilarious because it's just so, it's how you feel sometimes, isn't it, when you get that frustrated with your computer.
Oh yeah. And Cirroc, one more thing I wanted to bring up was your boy Jet. You thought he was going to get the shaft. You thought he was going to get that one gun, but he came back and had one of the funniest lines when Boimler was trying to get through, and he's like, "Well, I could carry you across a threshold like a bride." Killed me.
Yeah, and the other thing was when Boimler was crawling through the chutes and going through the climbing the ladders and stuff. There was a moment where he's like, "There's no way they're gonna do I forgot what he says." And right then, Tom Paris is like, "You mind if I take the helm?" And he does exactly what Boimler says wouldn't be done. So I thought that was another funny moment right there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did like with the animators, I think did a great job. When he was Boimler was trying to smash the plate at the end, and Tom's going, "No, not the plate," but that he almost was like a mime, as if he's behind glass in the plate. And so that was just hilarious. Just the detail they go to is just comedy gold. Brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we keep coming back to, is that we can't cover in an hour. We can't cover all the things that they did in 22 minutes. Which is really amazing. And that in the next week, people are going to keep coming up with more references and Easter eggs that we missed. That keeps happening, Cirroc. We review an episode and we say, wow, there was this and this and this and this. And then throughout the week, people come up with more and more things that, everybody missed. And it ends up being like 5 times as much as what we thought it was. Like last week, just in that collector's room, there were dozens of references. Every single trinket, every single thing was a reference to a previous Star Trek series or episode. Unbelievable.
And even, did you see the one somebody pointed out that there was an ET skeleton in that room, so that ET is now technically part of Star Wars and Star Trek?
No, I didn't see that one.
If you Google, I saw it on Twitter, I think, and someone there's this sort of, it does look like ET, and it's got his finger up pointing down at them. You've got to look that. They look pretty convincing. Yeah, that's
amazing.
That's a good one.
Cirroc, when she mentioned that ET was in Star Wars now, was Star Wars canon, is because I forgot where they have the big meeting place. I forgot what it was called, like a Senate meeting or something in the first 3 trilogy, the 1 through 3. I don't remember if it was trilogy number 1 or episode number 1 or 2, but there was at one point they looked down and there are like 3 ETs like cheering or doing something or listening in. It was really an interesting thing there. Wow.
I didn't see that they were in the Star Wars, and I didn't even see them in the ET and the Star Trek episode, the animated. So that's kind of surprising for me. Of course, we all grew up watching ET as one of the great movies of my childhood. Super successful movie. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I would never have. It's blink and you miss it kind of shot of it, but yeah, someone did a screenshot and put it on Twitter, and it's pretty convincing.
Brilliant.
That's amazing. And it also makes me think, because the writers are cramming so much information into these episodes, what those writing sessions look like. I really would like to get the insight on that. That'd be kind of fun to see. Them unfold these stories and throw the ideas around the same way. The guys at what we left behind, Ira and those guys, Zapone, gave us a glimpse inside the writing room. I'd actually like to see how these stories get kicked around, because there's so much comedy in there and there's so many references in there. It just makes you say, well, how much preparation is involved, because they have to get all that information to the animator, and let them know. Those things have to be described to the animator without actually being in the dialogue sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, aren't they?
I was thinking the same thing. They have like a room full of people just saying, okay, we got a checklist of things. Okay, add this, because this isn't in the script. This is like just right. The animators just basically have a list of things to incorporate with still frames for them to work with off of, the original episode that it came from. And I can only imagine what those meetings are like, where the animator's like, okay, so we got all these things. And Mike McMahon's like, okay, can you cram one more thing in the corner there? Is there, maybe we could put a tribble up there or something, some Orion shoe from Enterprise. It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Or 2 cases of Chateau Picard. We missed it. Got to put them in there.
So we're just about out of time here, guys. Do you have any final thoughts on this episode before we run? Oh, Cirroc Lofton's favorite line of the episode.
Oh, I think I
Oh, right. We're going to leave him all in suspense here. Let's see if he comes right back. Until then, I'll tell you what my favorite line was. I think my favorite line was probably when Jet said,
I said my favorite line. But my favorite line is when.
Oh, we missed it. So Cirroc, while you're coming back, my favorite line was when Jet said, "I'm going to carry you across the threshold like a bride." I thought that was adorable. But it looks like you're back. So you kept us in suspense long enough. What is it?
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know I left you guys. He was dead when he says he was dead, and he kind of is like, "Hey, what's the big deal?" And then the other one was, I don't know why this made me laugh, but she was in the right place with the right hypo spray. I love that line as well.
Very nice. Well, that's it. Eve, do you happen to have a favorite line that we could put you on the spot?
I mean, the T'Pol's hair one was pretty good, but I did like also when they were talking about whether they were in the relationship with Rutherford and Boimler respectively, and when Mariner obviously does like Boimler, but it's like, "Oh no, he's like a pet, ew," and that's hilarious. The way that she delivers some of those lines is just brilliant.
The lady doth protest too much, methinks, is I think what they were dropping in there.
Oh, actually, I tell you, they just reminded me that I think actually the funniest line I thought was when it wasn't a line, it's more the situation when Boimler is already looking like the Kazon when he sort of wants to record his last words, and then the computer says that they can't record his personal log. I was just thinking, oh, poor guy, he can't even put his last words down. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
One other line that Tendi said when Mariner said, "Oh, you listen to Klingon acid punk?" She said, "Are you kidding? Why even listen to Klingon unless it's punky or acidic?" Which was funny because acidic is kind of just, I don't know. Anyway. All right. I think that's about all the time we have, guys. Thank you so much, Eve England, out in Wales, for joining us. You were amazing.
It's been so much fun. Been so much fun.
Hey.
Bringing the Voyager knowledge and dropping the bombs that she skipped some episodes.
Forgive me, guys.
But also go find her on social media because she's got the coolest posts ever, especially if you love cute kitty posts. She's got a lot of those. And I don't know how you guys have so many castles in Wales or whatever. Like you keep finding new pictures of castles in Wales.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
There we go. All right. And everybody at home, thank you so much for joining us. Next episode will be Sunday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. mainland Europe. Everybody else, I don't know. Thank you all very much for joining us. And always remember the 7th rule.